everyone. Welcome to Resilient and Rowdy. It's your host, Jess. What's up? Okay, so today we have Nora Latuja. Hey, girl. Welcome.
Hey.
For those that don't know Nora, she is the first female Navy SEAL. She has this amazing presence online. She's hilarious. She's motivating. She's badass. So obviously have to have her on. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me the space to yap.
Of course, we are yappers here. Okay, so how do we dive in? Nora, tell us a little bit about yourself.
The lore goes deep, and it's also just all over the place. I originate from Ohio, so already off to a great start there.
Right. It's always fucking Ohio.
Did the normal pipeline of going to college and found myself wishing I was doing more. And I always had the idea that I wanted to be in the military. So in college, I was talking to recruiters. Unfortunately, it was during the time of the downsizing during Obama's first administration. And it was hard for me to get in anywhere. So I let it go until I graduated, gave corporate America 2 years, a little less than 2 years of my life, and decided, you know what, I'm just going to enlist. I reached out to the Army, enlisted as a 68 whiskey. And I knew from the beginning I was going to be an officer, just wasn't sure in what capacity. I had the idea of being a social work officer. Ultimately, that changed after seeing patients and seeing how behavioral health providers and just normal doctors were overworked. And I don't think I could have handled the compassion fatigue. So I commissioned as a logistics officer. In my mind, I was still able to contribute to the organization in another way. I regretted that decision once I realized it was much different than the NCO Corps, but I learned very quickly how to handle that. And I was an officer during the height of COVID. So I was in Bullock right when COVID started, and TikTok was new, and everyone during the shutdown needed an outlet. So I, like everyone else, downloaded TikTok. I wasn't posting right away. I didn't really start posting until I got to Fort Bliss. Now, I had a soldier who was super popular, still is, on TikTok he started with MRE reviews and then included the rest of the platoon in dancing or joke videos. And he encouraged me to start posting. And being during COVID, Fort Bliss had a total shutdown. You weren't allowed to go into restaurants. You weren't allowed to be seen with anyone or in anyone's house. I think there was a limit to maybe 4 people in somebody's house.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you're maintaining social distance, like you can control that. So I was living in isolation, and TikTok really was just a way of me not losing my mind. At first, people don't like to see officers. They do not like to see officers on any capacity, any platform, doing anything that isn't professional or acting as they think officers should act. So right off the bat, I was getting hate like anyone who posts on the internet, but there weren't a lot. It was very unsaturated at the time. So I really got a following from 1, making jokes, and 2, roasting. I don't even know if it's called roasting, but creating rebuttals in video form that were reading people for filth. And that's how I built the platform that I did. Eventually, it turned into advocacy. Obviously, I'm a woman and I'm in a masculine field of occupation. And that is the majority of the hate that I get. It's being an officer and being a woman. So obviously, I'm going to stand up for myself. There are opinions about me that I am polarizing because I am a feminist. Yeah, I want to have my own bank account. That makes me a feminist. who gives a shit? And after a while, I gave up on trying to fit the mold of what a commissioned officer should be. So obviously, my platform got to a point where my first BC was pulling me into the office saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. Never really got in trouble. I never got a counseling or any articles because I knew my left and right limits, but they weren't believing that I fit into, although there's no regulation, this traditional image of what commissioned officers should be. And I felt that as extremely disingenuous. Nobody wants to see that. I had a really successful platoon as a platoon leader because I didn't act that way. And my platoon sergeant didn't act that way. We acted as a team. We looked out for our people and we crushed it. So I refuse to carry forward that mentality that I have to police myself and be strict on throwing the book at people and being a robot, being an NPC in the Army, because we weren't in an active war and there's really no reason to fill the white space with being a hard ass all the time. And I really believe that successful leadership is the result of trust being built within whoever, whether it's peers or with you and your superior, but especially with people who work for you. They're not going to want to do shit for you if they think you're fake or that you're just trying to get them in trouble for something. So I gave up on all that and continued to make content, and I threw it on my Instagram about 2 years ago. I started bleeding it into my Instagram with the pending banning of TikTok, and I have now become a meme in a way. I like to say I make more dad jokes than anything else that are maybe military related, not always. I don't want to be stuck in the military creator space, but there are a lot of jokes that come out of that space. So I've just become a internet troll, but I do randomly like to throw out pieces about, one, standing up for yourself, two, keeping your head up in a unforgiving role that is being in the military, and getting out what you put in, because it can suck if you let it suck. I've had some really tough times in the Army. I've been shit on a lot by leadership, opportunities pulled out from underneath my feet. And it's just, all right, what's the next step to get something else or to get another try at whatever it is? Because I wasn't a first time go for submitting my OCS packet. I needed a waiver, so I had to resubmit, and it took me 2 years to even get accepted. You just got to keep going until they tell you no. So that's the left and right of who I am on the internet. Personally, I mean, I am probably more unserious than I need to be. But my favorite thing to do is laugh. I think it keeps you young and it keeps you healthy. It's definitely kept me out of potential dark slips into nothingness. And I also like to run. Oh, typical officer thing. Yeah, I have this idea that I can be an elite athlete if I just don't give up, just like the OCS thing. And it maybe it's delusional, but it gives me a goal to continue to hit progress, and I'm getting there. It's taking a long time, but I'm faster than I've ever been, and I'm on the wrong side of 30 at this point. I'm doing something right. But yeah, that's in a nutshell who I am. And I'm a mom. My kid's almost 2. And I'm just here in my own thoughts, thinking that I'm still 16 and that I have my whole life ahead of me. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
So that's the Nora lore in a nutshell. I like it. Picasso. Okay. No, my thing is just like, I really appreciate that you don't limit yourself to one space or a niche, or I don't really know how to put it. It's just nice that you have multitudes and depth to your personality. And I think that's really hard to come by, especially for an officer. So it's really disappointing, but I understand in a way of how officers are portrayed in real life and on social media. It's almost like you said, like y'all are like NPCs. It's almost like you can't exist, let alone as a woman, a tall woman, a beautiful woman, a smart woman. Like it's just too much for these simpletons to comprehend. But you are, and I hate this word, I could use a better word, but you're just unapologetic about it. You're just like, yeah, this is me. Take it or don't. My thing that I really admire is your resiliency and just how you keep going despite the setbacks, despite the hate, despite whatever comes on your desk, whatever comes your way. Have this ability to like relook at things, make a plan, and keep going. So can you tell me more about that? Like, where does it come from? Like you said, maybe delusion, maybe.
I don't even know. That's the thing. It's like anything, it takes practice, unfortunately. It
Yeah.
doesn't come overnight. Things get me down, and they still do to this point. Example, my last marathon, I had a goal, and I have this toxic perfectionism where it's I have to hit every single thing or I crumble. And I didn't hit my time goal, not even close. And I was capable of doing it. So I imploded for about 2 weeks and then decided I just have to keep going. What else do I have? And it's not like I can just pivot, choose something else, and start from scratch on, say, oh, I want to be a bodybuilder now. I don't know anything about that, you know? And I'm going to have failures in that sense too. Do I just give that up and pivot a third time? It's just, I guess, a shitty answer, but
No, not at all.
a natural thing that I do is just I keep going because it's uncomfortable to not do anything. It's
Yeah.
easy to quit something, to sit back and let your life continue on without you doing anything. And I've certainly I have fallen into that trap before. But it's like running. I don't like to take more than 2 days off of running because I feel like maybe I'm having regression in my fitness, but it doesn't start that way. I remember when I started running and it was painful. I didn't want to do it, so I didn't. And then I tried it again. It was still painful because I wasn't exercising that exercise. I wasn't continuing to build on that. And after a while, people can only criticize you on the same thing over and over again. Just like social media, the first year I started, I was like, damn, am I dumb? Am I the problem here? And after a while, you saw it's just the same rinse and repeat random slams. I could post a video of me just sitting there in uniform, not saying a thing, staring at the camera, and it would be littered with, I can predict them right now, the same 10 insults on rotation. So after a while, that becomes irrelevant. And you, I think with age, get too tired to care, especially after having a kid. People love to attack women for their appearances. And I remember after giving birth, obviously, not every woman's going to snatch back to their OG body. And I still had the double blood volume, so I looked swollen as shit. But I decided I was going to make videos again because I was in a stupor from being in pain and pregnant. And men made comments about my body. And it's like, holy shit, I just launched a child out of my body. And you're expecting me to look like a model. What? And it bothered me at first. And then I was so tired and had another life to look after. I had no energy to spend on caring. And I was so much happier for it. Obviously, when I get a viral video like my drone video, I'm littered with comments, and I do go through them because I don't want to see something disparaging toward, I always try to clean up the ones about women in the service, because I do have a lot of women in service who follow me, and they see that and they don't digest it the same way I do.
Oh, yeah.
So I like to delete them. I don't give a fuck. I delete comments. People want to say that's a weak thing. Eat my butt. I don't care. I love having the control of shutting you the fuck up. And they will repeat. They will see that I deleted it and they'll be like, oh, deleting comments? Yup. You bet. I don't spend as much energy on that initial day. It goes viral. Sure, I'll spend energy on it. After that, I don't care. And people love to come up from my past. That wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect. No one is ever perfect. And if they tell you that and try to present themselves as such on social media, it's a grift. But they try to come up with shit from 8 or 9 years ago when I first joined the Army. Everyone was learning how to process things and the stress, and people had like ailments and whatever. And they try to throw that in my face as a gotcha. Get fucked. Like, I don't care. And I will talk about it. I will talk about every single thing that in my mind, I think was wrong. And if you want to talk about things that you saw when I was in the service, we were working together, or you were working for me, we'll talk about it. I have no shame. After a while, it just falls off. Early 20s, I gave a fuck.
Right.
I gave several of them about who I was, how people viewed me, and I catered to the male gaze and everything. And after a while, it's, wow, I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I know that's not a good answer, but eventually with time and just, I think it's better now to see other people online. I know I see people online dishing out the same energy that they're receiving in the comments. It's encouraging to see that other people are doing it.
Yeah.
So maybe taking a page out of someone else's book and using it and seeing how the results end for you is a pseudo way of having some resiliency, is just looking to somebody else to see how they handled it. Try your hand at that methodology and seeing what comes of it. At least you learn something from it.
I wouldn't say that your answer, think anything of it. I think it's a real and it's an honest answer. And it's something that I am so grateful to see with friends, family, people that I follow on social media, but especially with women. It's like drawing away from, like how you said, like giving too much of a fuck and caring too much and catering to others. And now you're just like, that was exhausting. And that got me nowhere. Let me do what I want to do, because all you're doing is just having fun. You do your job and you do it well. You're a badass mom, and there are more important things to worry about. What people are missing is that you're not doing anything wrong. There's people out there that are actual shitbags that no one says anything about, but it's easier to point fingers or whatever. So I'm glad that you're able to call it out. I'm glad that you just don't fucking care. And I love it. And I think it does come with age. Like, I remember being younger and people always saying, oh yeah, your 30s, your 40s, like you just stop caring. And especially when we were talking about like early 20s and stuff, or 20s, it's, I hope so, because I care too much and I hate it. So how can I get there? By putting yourself out there and working on like getting thicker skin, but also acknowledging that you're not a shitbag. You're squared away. You're doing your best. You're kicking ass, honestly. So if anyone has anything to say, it's just because they don't want women to exist in a certain space. And especially when it comes from men, I think that sounds really gay. It's, oh, you don't want women to serve in the army or the military, so you just want to be surrounded by dudes all the time? Okay, gay. If you want to be around a bunch of dudes, just go to the Navy. You can be on the boat. You can dance to the YMCA. It's not gay if it's underway. But I think my thing is, how do people expect you to just roll over and take it and not stand up for yourself? So that's where I think you used the right terminology of saying, like, I roast people. People want to say, oh, you're bullying. I'm like, in my opinion, because I'm an Aries, okay, I won't start anything, but I'll finish it. And fires don't start themselves. So if you come at me, I'm going to finish it, and somebody's going to be crying, and it's not going to be me. And I think that's what you apply to your comment section. Like you said, you delete comments. This is your profile. This is your space. This is your phone. Like, you're doing nothing wrong. Again, there's people in this space that should get off their phones and should be banned personally. And I'm just like, don't you have a day job? Like, you do this in your free time. Like, you have a lot on your plate. I think you manage it pretty well. And people just want to come for you. And I'm just like, really, of all people? I got a handful of shitbags that you could just go and roast, rightfully. But here you are. I don't know. I think it's like I said earlier, I think it's because you're multifaceted. And I'm not just trying to blow smoke up your ass, but this is why I wanted you on. It's because people are hella intimidated by that. But again, you're not rolling over. You're not going to you're like, oh, boo-hoo, let me delete my TikTok account. No, bitch. Like, you're a woman in the army. Like, you need thick skin. You got to defend yourself. You got to stand up for yourself because no one's going to do it for you. So I'm glad that you're like honest about your journey with everything, but it just surprises me that people would expect you to be anything less.
I don't think it's they expect it. It's they want women to be quiet.
Mm.
And they see a woman in uniform enraged right off the bat. But they see an officer who's also a woman. It's damn. That is, in my mind, the most masculine job a woman can have. Any kind of, they see it as, oh, you have authority. But at the same time, they make the jokes about LTs don't have any authority. Okay, which is it?
Pick a side.
They see me making jokes. You should be professional. You're in charge of people. Oh, I thought I wasn't. I thought I was just a dumb little LT lost in the woods. Where did we go wrong with this? Left or right? You pick a side. Can't be in the middle, huh? You can't be in the middle of this. And it's not that I don't think they actually believe that. I think they've had some kind of female authority figure, whether it was their mother, whether it was a teacher, a babysitter, a sister, some family member, a friend, an ex, who did them wrong in some capacity. And that was it. Because, sorry to the men, I know it's not all men, but the ability to regulate emotions in the shitter, absolutely non-existent.
Girl.
That is something they have to work through, and they're able to. I believe everyone is capable of change, but what we've seen with recent and in the past tragic events, it's not able to regulate what's going on in the noggin there. So they have been done wrong in the past by some female authority figure, and they hold that resentment and then go seek refuge in the world of red pill male podcasts.
Oh my God.
And they're like, wow, this makes sense. The woman is a piece of garbage. She is a product that I am at the disposal to use as I see fit. And this all makes sense because they want that feeling back that they're right about whoever did them wrong. Yeah, this is my revenge now. This is how I get this back. They may have not been raised that way, but they have some pivotal moment. They can't regulate that event, and then they're encouraged by the oversaturated market of men with microphones. And then they come to my comment section and they are so surprised when I give it right the fuck back to them. And then suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly they are reaching out, hey, I am going to contact your command. They think they got me. And they're like, oh, Lieutenant Latuja, RRB, Ohio Army National Guard. I have your boss's name right here. I'm writing up the report. Good. I can't wait to read it with them and kiki it hot to you, because that's what happens. Because you think that recruiting and retention and PAO, they don't watch my Instagram?
They're probably laughing right there with, hi, girl, this is good.
Up in my comments, laughing their asses off. Yeah. Good luck with that, buddy. And then they try to reach out to my mortgage company. Oh, you're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your job because you're unprofessional. Who do you think owns that company? It's the S2 from my last unit that I worked with. Turns out we were friends. They also know about my social media, and part of the
Mm.
reason why they hired me, because they know is going to benefit me as a loan officer having a presence on social media, because that's how everyone does marketing these days.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. But yeah, they don't like when I give it back to them. It's not okay for me to read them for filth and make fun of their 5'7" height. And sometimes that is how I spin the wheel on the creativity. Is I love to engage in comments that are hateful toward me.
Mm.
Sometimes I hope for them, and I'm like, if I all positive comments, I'm like, oh man, this didn't work out so well. Not only do negative comments drive engagement for whatever video, but they also sharpen my skills on chopping people up,
Mm.
because I think it's funny. For me,
Mm.
I think it's hilarious. I read it to Dan, and we sit there and we laugh. And we, a lot of times, these people have an open profile using their government name. We look them up. Dan and I be looking their Facebook up and just laughing at them. So at least at the very minimum, it's entertainment for my husband and I, but it's also entertainment for everyone else. I've gotten a lot of, especially on the drone video, people saying, I stayed for the video. I followed because of you chopping people up in the comments.
Don't you love that?
It's hilarious.
I think that's also like a talent to be able to like riff right off the bat at somebody. So they're just making you better at your game.
Exactly.
Also, where do they come up with the time to do all of this? That's where I'm just, damn, don't y'all have hobbies? Don't y'all got like kids to take care of or a job or I don't know,
They're
anything
upset that
else?
I'm making videos, that I'm taking my time to make videos, but not upset at them, at their own comments, wasting their time and energy. And
Yeah.
they'll be up there for days
Yeah.
responding to what I have to say. It's like, damn.
My thing is, I just quit engaging with it because somebody told me, and this is going to sound really, but they were like, those men don't talk to women like you in their day to day life. So, them baiting you in the comment section is the only way that they'll have an attractive woman give them the time of day. And I was just like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I try to be humble, but like that was flattering. But also I was just like, you know what? Yeah. Like they are crusty, dusty, Cheeto finger, just keyboard warrior. And I'm out here living my best life and having fun and having a little hee-haw, just like you are. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, dream on, motherfucker. Like it's not, or I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I would take it too far. I'm like, oh yeah, John Smith, 4'11. I'm gonna go fucking blow my brains out because you told me that I can't exist in this space. The fuck? You want me to put you in my suicide letter? I'll do it. Say less, Pookie. Join the rest of the motherfuckers. But I love it, and I'll always root for you and back you up. It's just so disheartening, like I said. Like the innocent dad joke, like that, man, these guys got their panties in a bunch. I'm just like, go outside, smoke a cigarette. Like, goddamn. But I'm glad that you're making content. I think you're hilarious. And speaking of that, you and the guys from like Wen's Chow were making some really good stuff. And I come from a time in the army that like a lot of officers, all of their social medias were everything was private. Like, and people didn't post back in my day. And so I'm just like, I'm loving it. I love seeing these sides of y'all that humanize y'all. Like y'all aren't robots and you're a mother, you're embracing motherhood. And I know that you took a little break to like focus on that, which is again really admirable. But my thing is just you're damned if you do and you damned if you don't. So the way I see you living your life is just you're just having fun with it. That's all there is to it. Can't a girl just have fun?
It's just a creative outlet.
Yeah.
Honestly. At the height of Wen's Chow stuff, it was just Craig and I lived together, and not together in the same household, but we were in Columbus, Georgia together. So it was fun to write script. We were writing scripts and getting people together to be in our videos, and
Yeah.
that's fun because it's a time for us to exercise our skills on writing and editing and the recording process, and it sharpens it. And unfortunately, it took SFAB leadership to put the hammer down on our fun. That's just how the Army goes. And we try to do it individually from our remote places. And from time to time, I feel like I need that. I just need a little creative outlet. My mind is always thinking of 1,000 different things at one time. And sometimes I do write down my ideas and I keep them in a little book of, I will make them later. And the later rarely comes around. But every once in a while, I'm like, man, I really need to make this joke. I know people don't understand that. But some people have the outlet of, I need to go to a brewery and get a flight, or I need to go to a concert. I need to go to a game. People have their own versions of outlets, and this just happens to be mine. I'm not active duty anymore. So the argument that shouldn't you be leading soldiers? Like, brother, when you get to a certain level, that's not a thing that officers do anyway. But I'm not active duty. Use that same argument to all these other creators that are active duty that are churning out 5 videos a day.
Oh my God.
Why don't you use that same fucking argument toward them?
It's because they're men. Or
there
I
it
don't
is.
know. So what's that been like for you going from active duty to reserves?
Weird. It was exceptionally weird because I was pregnant the last 6 months of active duty. I really wasn't doing much anyway. Even if I was back at the unit, I was doing my internship. So perfect timing on that. But even at the unit, I probably wouldn't be doing as much as I was originally. And then as soon as I transitioned over to the Guard, it was about time for me to pop. It was me not doing anything, not reporting. And then I'm on maternity leave, still not reporting. And then all of a sudden I get used to not being in that life anymore. So it was an easier transition than most, I think. If I had just done all the way up to terminal leave, taken terminal leave and then reported, I think it would have been more of a sudden jump. But I think having the baby in between my transition helped me learn how to be away from that environment. I do have days where I'm like, man, I miss going to the field, or I miss doing this, that, and the third. I don't miss organized PT. One thing about me, I still wake up early as shit. I am up. Latest is 5:30. Earliest is 4:15 because I got to work out before everybody wakes up.
Oh, true.
If I don't work out, that's it. I'm not working out the rest of the day because I got a little one running around. I have the work that I do here. And so I kept that life, but I don't miss saluting the flag and waiting around and wasting my time. So I'm definitely much happier. Asterisk, I miss certain things. Anybody misses certain things about active duty.
Right.
I think I would have struggled more with the transition if it was a job that I was in love with, because it was an easy refrad for me because I didn't enjoy being a logistics officer at all. There's not a lot to learn. And I know there are higher up loggies up there that will probably tell me I'm wrong, but I have no interest in log packs. I have no interest in planning movement. It's just not something that lights my fire. Being a medic was. So that's why I always say I regret the transition because of the political side of the officership, but mostly I miss being a medic. I think I was somebody personality wise that was fit for the enlisted life, and I really enjoyed that job thoroughly. But sure, there's an option for me to do it on the officer side, whether it's registered nurse or a PA. I can do the work and get the licensure and become that. But at that point, I've seen too many soldiers with wild ailments like brain cancer when I was a medic in the clinic. It's just, I carry that with me. I cry. I cry for random strangers on the internet all the time, especially sick kids. I will be toiling about that for a week. So put me in a unit where I have to see soldiers struggling face to face and talk to them, I up here cannot digest it. I'm in this weird situation and I submit my transfer packet next month to become a service officer, which is medical admin, so logistics, whatever. I just want to be in the AMED entity again. Yes, it's still doing logistics to a certain extent, but it is in a field that I understand and I enjoy.
Mhm.
So that is my saving grace of how do I continue to serve and not hate what I'm doing. Because
Yeah.
I do the Army. It's just, I want to love every part of it. I like recruiting. I do. I get to talk to people. I think people are interesting, different walks of life. And if I can help them out in some kind of situation, granted, I recruit for officers and warrant officers, but if there's an enlisted that needs help with a bonus or whatever, I can at least steer them to somebody that will help them. And I feel like I'm contributing in some sense. Whereas if I'm just looking at your freaking maintenance, the whatever, I forget what the sheet is called, of hanging parts, and you got to pick up stuff from the SSA. Ugh, yawn, miss me with it, because it's a predictable job. And I think that's what I don't like.
It's too mundane. I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I really admire like your self-awareness and the self-assessment. People get too caught up in I'm too comfortable in the Army or in the military, I don't want to get out. You value the time that you're putting in and you want to enjoy it. And especially with that transition of getting out of active duty and stepping into motherhood, it's like that probably helped prioritize like things for you, like whether it's personally and professionally. So I applaud you for taking that stance, and also like for your upcoming like next chapter. I think that's awesome and I'm really excited for you. So you did some enlisted time, you did some officer time. Outside of the job, I think one thing that I really admired about officer women was like the culture. I felt like y'all were more banded together, at least from what I saw outside looking in type of thing. And I understand that y'all do compete for billets and stuff for your OERs and all that, but there was still like a sense of unity. Can you talk about the difference between the culture of like sisterhood that you experienced with enlisted and then your officer time? Like, how was that like for you?
As an NCO, you have a sense of being on a team, but it's more gender neutral just because there's more of you. However, the women on the NCO side were either your biggest supporter or your biggest opponent. My specific platoon sergeant was my opponent. She was my op. She awful. Just like, this woman was under functioning. Like, never came to PT, struggled in the physical sense, and then knowledge wise, there were gaps. And she was an E6. I don't want to say pick me, but to my peers. So when I started out, obviously I was a specialist. It was me and another female specialist, and then the rest were the privates and specialists were men. Medic world is pretty good mix of men and women. Super nice to the men, super mean to the women, unless they outranked her. She would throw away my BLC packet, my OCS packet. She would tell me I couldn't do things that I, wanted to volunteer for master fitness trainer course, all this stuff. It was no. She didn't like that I promoted early to 5 and would constantly send me to the field under the guise of it will help you develop and learn things. I went to the field with these companies and sat around, did nothing. There was no training for me. It was just to get me out of her hair and get me away from opportunities. But I did find an E8 who was in SPO, who was a patient of mine, and I would tell her about these things because she was in for she was about to retire, so she had a lot of things she wanted to document. So I saw her very frequent, and after a while, she would know who my platoon sergeant was. And I ended up asking her to pin me. Ooh, my section didn't like that. But it goes to show you, it's on that side, it was they're your biggest cheerleader, or they want you to see good. They want you to do good, but not better than them, kind of thing. Now, on the officer side, it was different just because it was weird COVID situation. So I didn't really have a lot of interaction with majority of them. But of course, the pool is smaller. Your peer group is smaller by nature. And then the women of that pool, even smaller. It, as a lieutenant, it's you're just trying to figure it out. Everyone's scared because the development on that side is like public humiliation. In that sense, you would go to your first USR and all the field grades are there to include brigade commander. And like you screw up one time, they're flaming you on the spot. There's no pulling you to the side and talking to you about it and saying, hey, this is what you can do better for the next time. It's just they are embarrassing you. Maybe that was just Fort Bliss, but to me, that was my impression of officer development. And the women, there's this cultural environment that if you're not smiling, you're mean.
Oh my God. Like the resting bitch face thing.
Yes, I certainly was deemed that because I wasn't bubbly and talking in a baby voice and saying yes to everything, which I would do the work that I could handle. I did the work that I felt was extremely necessary. I was asked to do things like, hey, we need Bluebird buses to take our company out to the range, which coming from the side that I was previous to this position, you didn't do that. You tactically moved in your vehicles by convoy to the range because you're practicing two things at once. You're getting your range time, you're getting your tactical movement time. But also, Fort Bliss had a policy where you did not do that with Bluebirds because they had pre-mob, demob people that they had to use the buses for. Now, you can move people to the ADAG. If you're deploying, you can certainly get your people on a bus and get them there. But it was a black marked no. And I said no to these men. I said, no, you can't do this. They didn't like that. Mm-hmm. I would lead with no and say, this is why, instead of giving them the runaround that they want to hear. But I'll try. And it was always, hey, can you at least try? I said no. No, because as soon as I put that request up to DTO and I have to work with them on other shit, as soon as they see me requesting something that they know that I know can't be done, they're going to say, you're ridiculous. So the next time they see my name, it's not going to go smoothly. So I knew that, and they couldn't understand that concept. Instead, they were, I'm a captain, you're a lieutenant, you will do as I say. And because I said no, I was a bitch. And my outgoing counseling with my BC and I got along very well. And I had a good OER, but that was his caveat. Maybe if I was how I was supposed to be, going again about how officers are supposed to be in the traditional sense, not by regulation, but just by this is the way it is. Maybe I would have been cute, but to me, that's not worth it because at some point, my section is suffering. I have to ask them to stay longer. They don't get to go home. Sure, your people get to go home, but my job is to protect them. Mm-hmm. They have a job to do. I'm not making them do anything extra. We had a 60-hour movement to Fort McCoy for the Afghan pullout. So we were receiving refugees, and that battalion was tasked with, I don't know what the hell they were doing up there. They didn't know what the hell they were doing up there, but it was a mess. And my guys, we were all pulling all-nighters to get this done. Yeah, they gave me a coin, but they didn't give my section a coin. You know what I mean? It's that kind of shit. And that felt good because I was a newly promoted first lieutenant. I was 2 weeks in the seat. I had never done this before, made it happen, but I didn't make it happen without them. So I got the coin. I got the recognition.
What about everybody else?
The lower enlisted.
Yeah. I'm glad that you acknowledged that because I saw that happen too many times. And I don't know. It's just distasteful. So I'm glad that you felt accomplished and you appreciated getting the coin and that recognition, but you're also turning back and you're like, I couldn't have done it without these guys. So what about them? I think that's just like a sign of intelligence. And also logistically, like as an officer, you have to think multitudes of steps ahead. And I'm glad that you pointed out about that reality. If you went ahead and did what they said, made yourself look like a fool, the next time you request something, they're like, oh, here's this dumbass. That's just how it is. And so it's not, you're not saying no to just defy them or to be a bitch. It's just there's reasoning for it, but some people just don't want to hear it. Funny that you pointed out that they were captains, because sometimes they get the railroad tracks and they want to act some type of way, especially to first lieutenants, like, but that's neither here nor there. That's still like unfortunate to hear about that still happening within the culture, but it's just sometimes just the military can be so slow to adapt or change, or it sometimes can like almost encourage that type of treatment, especially towards women. So I'm just glad that you're sticking your ground and you have, legitimate reasons for it. Sometimes I feel like people get into certain positions and they just want to hear yes, but they don't realize that you're saving them a headache or delays by doing it another way with memorandums or like rules or whatever, or just like the way that things go. Like sometimes I think I see too much of the power trip and they lose touch of what day to day looks like, what the logistics of things look like. I hated watching it sometimes in real time. That's my thing, is that I agree with you, is I can be very expressive, maybe a little dramatic, but not really. I'm just like, he said, like, I'm like watching the officers like go at each other. And I'm like, oh my God, like y'all are supposed to be the professionals. And I'm just like, it's like mom and dad fighting. But then when I'm cool, calm, and collected, just taking notes or doing whatever, it's just like, fix your face. I'm just like, I can't exist. Like I'm either too much of a ding dong or I got resting bitch face. And they're like, fix your face, James. And I'm just like, which one do you want? I can't win. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that insight of the realities that go on.
But all that to say, that was a long way to get to because of that. Because of you're going to be a yes man as a woman.
Yeah.
The women stick together. They will go into the offices, close the door, and be like, oh man, what do I do? Or just vent to each other. But they have to stick to each other more on that side because of that reaction and the lack of development in the sense of hand holding. But it's just like humiliation from higher to fix yourself. And the women, it goes silent and unsaid that they watch each other's back because they know what they're expected to be. And if you stand up for yourself, then you're going to be deemed as aggressive. So I think that's why they bond more on that side as opposed to enlisted, where it's more even. Yeah. And the development is more counseling, sure, but you'll have a mentor on that. On this side, no chance.
Yeah. I think that's just like the unfortunate reality, because I think whichever space or wherever I go, that's all I genuinely want and I value more, especially when you learn to decenter men, is I just want sisterhood. I want friendship. Like life is hard enough. I don't need some insufferable bitch giving me a harder time just because she feels some type of way about herself or whatever. And whether that was when I was in the army or like now, like in the military veteran space, it's disappointing to see it. And I'm glad when I do see women sticking together, pulling them aside and just like having a talk. And sometimes I feel like that can be difficult, at least in the creator space, because sometimes I do believe that people get a large following and almost like that captain was to you, they expect you to, oh yeah, you're right. You got 20K over there and I'm sitting here at 2. Yeah, you're right. And so I think you bring a solidarity and that like encouragement and reminder, whether it's for women who are in the military or like people that follow you on TikTok, they're just like, I don't want to bring up her name, but just I think you You unintentionally are inspiring women to speak up, to use their voice, to do it tactfully and professionally, because I think we've all like had enough. But that's also just in people in general, like male, female, whatever. Just speak your truth. And I think more people need to be open minded and not be on such a power trip, and things would get better and things would improve. But that might be a little naive of me to say. But at least you have an active part in it and you're having fun. You have your little hee haw. But one thing that I do like as well is like you stepping into motherhood and trying to balance it all. So can you, as someone who isn't married and doesn't have kids yet, can you shine a little light about what that's been like for you?
It has been fun. Everything happened really fast. So I met Dan when we were enlisted back at JBLM. And as soon as we like deemed that each other was the one, Army stuff happened. Like I got sent to OCS, which was something I had applied to before I even met him. And that was something I wanted to see through. And then while I was in OCS, he deployed. And then like COVID happened and they wouldn't station us together. And it was just like, that happened really fast. We got married really fast. And then before I knew it, I was like, I'm sick of not being stationed even near him, right?
Yeah.
I was in Texas. He was in Georgia at that time. I was like, something's telling me I need to walk away because he's out now, but he was in Ranger Regiment. So that really limited where I could go. And the opportunity for us to be stationed together was probably not going to be in the cards because of it. And combination of things. And I was like going to the fertility clinic in Texas and them telling me like slim to none chance and you have like hereditary issues and like all this. I'm like, oh, I just need to get out because I know this job is stressing me out. It's going to be impossible. And even if I do decide I'm going to have a kid and get pregnant, like I don't want to do it not even in the same state as my husband's. I got my refrat approved and my CSP approved, and he came and helped move me, and boom, right away, pregnant. It was like the release. This is, I guess, TMI, maybe? I don't know, but it's true. The cortisol levels create the pseudo infertility. And my first company, there were like over 10 miscarriages just because of the stress and the high up tempo of the job. I think it was 17 by the time I left. It was bad, but that is unfortunately a commonality in the service, that these women do lose either from exposure to something or falling or just riding in the vehicle can do it. But certainly the stress can cause issues. And I wasn't planning on getting pregnant that soon, but I did. And it was like, an oh shit moment. And I didn't have any symptoms or anything. I just knew. I went on a vacation with my friends from college in Hawaii. And in Hawaii, I was like, I feel weird. And I wasn't really drinking because I didn't feel like it. I couldn't really like stomach the thought of drinking. And I came home and I looked at him and I was like, I need to take a pregnancy test. He's like, what were you doing in Hawaii?
Who is he?
And sure enough, I took one and I was pregnant. And then it was like, all right, I have to change my whole life because I'm out of active duty. I was going to do a supply chain job. Then our move, we had to change. We were going to move back to Washington. But now there's a little one involved. And I was like, we need to be closer to family. So maybe we just stay in Georgia. And I was scared, like anyone, especially since it wasn't planned. It was something that we wanted, but I didn't know what to expect because leading up to deciding, all right, we're going to get pregnant, you're reading the books and preparing all the things in your life. And I just had to quickly get that all sorted, and ended up being perfect timing. And I spend pretty much my entire day worrying about my kid. I think that's normal. I will go to bed at night and go through it. I won't be thinking about it all day. And then I go to bed and I toil. I just close my eyes going through possible bad scenarios where he gets hurt or somebody takes him and it's just irrational. But I think that's normal. And also they've become less over time. But I think that was a very common like postpartum thing. I don't think too much has changed about my life because I wasn't somebody who partied. I was back in the day, but past 5 years, like as soon as I went to OCS, I gave up that life. Like I wasn't going out and clubbing. Alcohol wasn't the center of my life. And COVID kind of made everybody a shut-in, a recluse, if you will. And I have friends, but I'm not somebody who goes to boozy brunches or is involved in clubs. So it's pretty easy for me to revolve my day around my son. Obviously, we do get out and do things, but I genuinely married my best friend. So I feel like that part of me is satisfied. I know having a kid can do the opposite and tear people apart, but my kid's so funny. And I know that's everyone thinks their kid is the best. But
Right.
my kid's funny and me, I love laughing. So I'm like, this is the best.
Yeah.
Of course, it comes with there's bad days and sicknesses and whatever, but once it happens, it's like pretty easy to keep it going. I know everybody was like scaring me about like the newborn thing, like they're going to be wailing and crying and just like you're going to be up all the time, you're never going to sleep. We slept like babies. It was so easy. He was an easy baby. Now he's 2 and like perfectly fine. And I just have to manage work, which is a new thing for me because I work from home, but managing that around him because as soon as I get on a phone call, he wants to be on the phone call.
Yes. Oh my God.
He wants to know who I'm talking to. He wants to contribute his own dialogue, which most people are okay with because the majority of clients that I have come from Instagram, whatever, so they get what I'm about. But like people who don't know anything about me, it's, oh, I'm so sorry, like my son. And then the workout stuff, I just gotta keep getting up early as hell. I did in the Army, but that was a smooth transition. But yeah, being a mom is weird. I felt like I felt a little pressure to be like a typical mom because other moms are bullies and they like to flex I didn't have an epidural. Okay. I don't care. I didn't feel anything. And for the type of delivery I had, which didn't go very well, I am glad I had that. So I don't care. For me, that's not a win that I suffered in pain and did everything naturally and breastfed for a year. Fuck off. I don't care. Like my kid,
Thank you.
He's in the 99th percentile height and weight. And that's formula, baby. I don't give a shit about your little breastfeeding journey. Shut up. Nobody cares. It's like you and every other woman since ever did that.
I find that just
don't shame me because I dried up.
Preach. No, I just find that so weird. And it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like life, society shits on people and women so much. So why do we do it to each other? And witnessing that outside looking in, I still don't get it. I love watching my friends step into motherhood and my sister and stuff. And I just, whatever happened to each their own. It didn't come out of your coochie. It's my household. We tried that. It didn't work for us. And you have to be very malleable as a parent. And I think if you want to get anywhere in life, but it's been really cool to see you step into that. And I love it. He's precious. But I also feel like you stopped posting as much. Is that because you're focusing on new job, life, and there's a move? Also, he's a toddler. He's everywhere. Like you can't, you got to be like on him. You know what I mean? But I also wasn't sure if you, with a very public presence, did that intentionally because there's fucking weirdos on the internet.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if it was like, okay, she's busy, or just trying to keep some stuff private and keep him away from the weirdos and fucking stalkers that you have.
Yes, that is intentional. So I do post him very rarely, but I make sure it is in a way that there is nothing that can be deep faked, and videos are very rare because I know that exists. When he was an infant, He was not that cute. Like, he was cute. He was cute, but like the 1 month to 3, he was gross and had baby acne and stuff. So I thought it was pretty safe to post him a lot. And then he got cuter and got more like a little kid. And I know what people do with that shit. And my kid's adorable. I know he's adorable. He's so freaking cute.
Mhm.
Thank God. I hate to say I didn't want a girl, but like for stuff like that, it's just
Yeah.
an added worry. But boys aren't off the charts either. I try to be very careful with how I post him and what's in a little kid eating a popsicle goes for crazy on the dark web. I know once he gets to like maybe 9, I can praise him, but also I feel like nobody cares. I don't know. He's funny, but also after a while, I know I see people's kids and I'm like, okay, how many times can you post their accomplishments of them tracing their hand? Like, I get it. It's
Nora.
exciting for you,
Yeah.
but not everything is a celebratory moment that needs to be published online. And I see that true for myself. I try to hold that to myself as well. Sometimes I overshare, but I have 127 posts on an account that is 12 years old. Granted, I've taken some of those things down because they were like either revealing some personal information that I didn't want people to know, or like people that I wanted to protect, because like my friends are like, I'm getting added by random creep online. So I, removed some of those things. But overall, I don't post very often. And that's because I think that after a while, you can only be bombarded by everything. And that's to include my content. Like, I used to post 2 to 3 TikToks a day. Not everything was a big sell. Like, not everything was a landed joke, but it was at the time, that's how you generated engagement through the algorithm. I don't think it works that way anymore. I think maybe also that was just like a tale that people told to get more people to post.
Yeah.
Because I know plenty of content creators still do that on Instagram, and like, it's not needed. I mean, I posted like one video after not posting for a couple weeks and boom, flew off the shelf. If you are posting good quality content, it will go somewhere. People want to engage with it. Same for like stuff I post about myself. If it's something genuinely interesting, I'll post it. Unless it's my rant. My story is like my diary. I just shit post on that and give people unsolicited advice or opinions that they didn't ask for, but I think it's either funny or I just needed to vent about somebody or something.
That's also like why they're there. Like, whether they engage or not, people are following you for a reason. I personally love unsolicited rants. That's my thing. I do it. You're a fellow yapper, you get it. But I think that is one thing that I do personally like appreciate about you is stepping into motherhood and rocking it, but also not exploiting your child, because you do have a large platform. And I think that's one thing, again, and you said it, boy or girl, it doesn't matter. There's weirdos on the internet and there's like innocent things that you can share that are fine. But I think I've also started to see just more people, like whether they're in my life or acquaintances or even strangers, it's they squeeze a baby out and they're just like, how can I shill money out of this baby? And I'm just like, okay, it's your child. That's what you want to do. I feel like I don't have any skin in the game. And sometimes women like that to make comments to me because they're like, oh, you're unwed and you've never squeezed one out. So don't tell me what to do. I'm like, my thing is just I'm very like fiercely protective of children because of what I've been through. And I love to have fun on the internet, but you can do that without exploiting your child. So that was just something that looking out and not really knowing you very well, is just, oh, cool, Nora, she's having a baby. That's awesome. And then you took that step back. And I have a nephew. And even with that, it's even though it's a boy, you still give them that privacy. And I like to see that. It's very refreshing. Again, like I said, with your large platform, I didn't have any expectations. I don't put that on people, but I do appreciate when people are like, let me take a step back and put this on my close friends, because it's an innocent little child. And I think that's like a thing that I'm like, okay, to each their own, like I said, but in that regard, and I'm just like, and you brought it up how like people can manipulate AI. I'm just like, no, honey, no. But I'm glad to see that you're rocking it. You transitioned from active duty to reserves and you have big girl job. And I'm sure that you enjoy that flexibility of working from home and spending time with him too. Did you ever feel like he's still young, but were you just like ready to get back to work like after you gave birth or yeah?
Yeah. So I cut my maternity leave a month short because I was worried about not report. So I was supposed to report to Washington in November, but I was a high risk pregnancy, so I wasn't allowed to fly. And they were like, no issue, just stay until May. And then I cut my maternity leave early because of that. I was like, oh man, they threw me a bone here, so let me like try to do that back. And I had a really traumatic delivery where it took me almost 3 times as long to recover to walking. So I was hobbling through the airport. I hobbled around. They're giving TA-50. I did not know I was going to draw equipment, and I'm shuffling.
Oh.
I'm dragging a duffel. I'm shuffling with the ruck on my back. And I felt, sorry to be gross, my organs were going to fall out. Because that was what happened to me. Is I had a postpartum hemorrhage, a massive tear, and then because of the hemorrhage, it weakened my pelvic floor. So it was to the point where it collapsed. And I had to go through 16 weeks of physical therapy just to get it to support everything. And I was in excruciating pain to just like standing, walking, everything. And I was at risk of prolapsing because it was so weak. So I was really worried that I was going to screw myself up more. So, I was like, man, I shouldn't have done this. But it's again back to that like toxic perfectionism. Is, oh man, I feel like I have to be doing this, because I was still very much in that mindset of like the active duty, no matter what, you get it done. Yeah, I was like gung ho. And at the time I was like, I want to be AGR. I want to AGR, let Dan be the stay-at-home dad, and I'm back to work. And I just needed more time. So after a while, I did realize, because I had really bad depression, and that's a big part why I stopped hosting. One, I was overwhelmed by being a mom, being out of active duty, so many changes, moving to Ohio. My dad had gotten sick. My husband's dad had a heart attack, and it was like all at the same time. So I moved back to Ohio to be close to my family because of all the stuff that happened and having a kid. And it was like, it hit me. And like, that was one of the lowest points I felt. And I know that was like the chemicals and the hormones trying to regulate after. It's common. I'm just glad I didn't go into psychosis, but I was like, yeah, I want to, my response was, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to just hammer out and continue on as if nothing happened.
Right. Like getting back into a routine, kind of like making you feel like that will make everything go back to normal.
Yep. Obviously it didn't work that way. And in the summer after I gave birth, so like June, July is when my buddy from Fort Bliss reached out and was like, hey, I don't know what your plans are for work. And at this time I was really not thinking about anything other than I have to move to Ohio and I need to figure out like all this stuff. So everything had fallen through, my AGR plan, my plan to move to Washington, all of that. And he was like, yeah, I think you'd be really good at this. And I took the courses, got my license, and then boom, it ended up being the perfect thing that I needed at that time. So I just feel very lucky. And again, that's an Army network reaching out because he had just gotten out as well from the Army. And it's all former officers, Army officers that have gotten out, and they're working the real estate life. And then, yeah, I allowed myself to be comfortable. I know I said earlier, I don't want to be comfortable because that's how you slip into laziness, but I'm busy. I'm not doing anything, but being able to be home and making my own schedule, which is whenever. Like people ask for advice on like their loan or whatever, or need to start the process. It could be a Sunday.
Yeah.
It could be a Saturday. But that's what I feel like is me giving back, because I have the flexibility of doing it from my home office. Waking up when I want to and not having to put on a uniform and go anywhere. And also being able to take care of my kid, because that was my biggest fear is, do I put him into childcare? Ugh.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's expensive and it worries me. So yeah, that was a little tough trying to get out of that mindset of needing to go back to work, but I keep myself busy still. I just needed like about a year to reset, just because the hormones were wild and my body took a really long time. It took me about a year to finally run without sharp pain in my pelvis. I realized that I just need to give myself a little bit of grace, because if I don't, I'm going to screw myself over more and be just worse off.
Yeah. Girl, you're freaking killing it. And I sincerely applaud you. That's a lot to go through. And I can relate to that. Is it perfectionism? Is it, I think there's a better way to describe it, but it's almost like you have, and they're not like impossible goals or anything, but it's just like when you're high functioning and high achieving, it's like that bar is already set for you. So when you feel like you're not meeting that, you're like beating yourself up. So when you mention that you're giving yourself grace, I'm glad that you are, because you absolutely deserve it. You've been through a lot, but you're still getting up every day and giving it your all. And yeah, you are busy. So when Jen and I are blowing you up in the group chat, we're just like, and we're like, where's Nora? And we're like, oh, she's busy. Like she's got a lot on her plate. Like we completely understand, but it's really awesome just seeing you in a better headspace, thriving, killing it. And also, yeah, like it's refreshing knowing that someone like you, who is ethical and moral and just straight and arrow, like helping veterans and active duty with knowing what their benefits are and not trying to exploit and do people dirty. There's just so much of that. So I always just try to give the people that are doing good, which is the bare minimum, but not even that. Like I give y'all your roses, because I've just met so many shitbags, and it's really awesome having you today on this podcast and getting to know you more. Like I've seen you around these past couple of years, and that's my thing too, is I've been so jaded and I've been backstabbed a couple times. I'm like collecting knives at this point. So it's really awesome that Jen introduced us and I got to know you a little more the past year, and really just like seeing you as just a badass, strong woman that's just getting up every day and just trying their best and not allowing people to take your spark away. Like that riff, your sense of humor, your energy is amazing. So I love seeing you kick ass, take names, all doing it with motherhood and stuff. So one thing that I do want to ask you is, what does resilience look like to you, and how do you feel like you embody it?
Why do you give me that question? What does it look like?
Or okay, better question. What's it like just having that heavy burden of being the first female Navy SEAL?
I don't even know how to answer this without giving we've heard that one before.
And that's okay.
You just keep standing up. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Because sometimes that's all it is. And I think even if that is like your embodiment of resilience, that's okay, because lots of transitions within these past 2 years, and you're still out here grinding. You still show up. And obviously you're taking care of a little one. So you have to. Does that also take part in your resilience of things might be weighing you down? You have your own personal things going on, family stuff, work stuff, but little Bean deserves the best mama that you can be. No.
I think it's like you find a distraction that is probably an adjacent solution to your problem. It might not be the direct solution, if that makes sense. So for me, when they told me, yeah, if you don't do this physical therapy or you have this happen and you deteriorate further, we're looking at you may not be able to run again. I was like, oh, come on.
It's like the world to you.
Yeah, I love running. It was blessing and a curse. I used to use it as punishment and a way of bartering with myself to eat. And now it has become, everyone uses it for the mental clarity or therapy or whatever. It does help me, I wouldn't say clear my mind, because I'm very much thinking about my run when I'm running, because I am obsessed with analytics and hitting numbers. But it, afterwards, I feel fresh and I feel in a sense of productivity where I can continue my day and accomplish things. But I think when they told me that, I was like, damn, I need to pick up running. Instead of just running to exercise or running to maintain a level of fitness so I can pass the ACFT, I said to myself, I'm going to run to be a runner. I am going to run to see if I can compete, and I'm going to throw myself into uncomfortable situations. Marathons suck. I hate marathons. I like running long distances, but it's in training. It's not a race. You're not in an environment where there's pressure, and it's nice to see the scenery. Marathons, yawn. It's like a bunch of people with stupid signs cheering. I don't like that environment. I don't like being around people. I don't like running with people. I like to be alone. But it's something that I have to do in order to tick a mark, right? So you'll never see an elite runner that's just, oh, I run for fun, and then I decided I'm going to go to be an Olympic qualifier and just get invited. No, they have to do races. They have to get there. So if I want to be on the All Army marathon team, I need to do these races. I need to do this race to get a baseline. I need to do the National Guard race to get on that team, and then keep going up. So having that distraction kept me out of imploding, because that felt like I was contributing something personally, developmentally wise, and also contributing to the Army, because that is one of their recruiting bits, is like having this National Guard running team. And I was just like, I made a video joking about like they haven't responded to my emails. Turns out I had the wrong email from like an old point of contact. But nonetheless, I got on the team that way. And now I'm, in May running my first National Guard sponsored run or race, and that's to make the national team. And that's the first stepping stone to get on to All Army team. And having that is like not the solution to whatever I was going through at the time, but it opened up a clearer mind, because I'm distracted with trying to make progress on this, accomplishing this task. Now I can think about all these other issues that I have going on, like my work life or me not feeling so good in my head. What can I do to get past this? So it was by being something so totally different, I was able to apply a less stressed mindset to whatever problem I was having, that I could get over it. And I think that's how my resiliency works now, is if I not avoiding your problems per se, but avoiding your problems. I have this thing that sucks, it hurt, or it's something I didn't want. How do I get past this? I can't toil on it. I can't forget about it, but I can do this other thing that's going to make me feel good and get me in the right mindset, that I can come back to this situation and figure it out. And that's how I get over problems. It's not necessarily always running, but I had something with I was hitting a wall with like my loan stuff, because I don't like self-marketing. It seems cheesy. It seems very like conceited in a way, or like it's just cringe to me. Like, hey guys, use me for a loan. I'm your dude. Like, what the fuck? Because I'm new to this. I don't know everything, but I'm going to try to figure it out and help you the best way I can.
Yeah.
But I don't want to like make all of them. They love it. They make videos like, this is how you use the VA loan to your benefit. And I'm like, I would cry in a corner and hate myself forever if I did that. So I was hitting a roadblock with that, and I'm like, ugh, I don't have anything else that I can do. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start posting again on Instagram and make a Instagram for my mortgage thing, to at least make it real that I'm doing this. And
Mhm.
I created the Instagram, and then I started posting, just wanted to post again in general, not post mortgage stuff, and then I started making the last 3 or 4 videos, just silly videos, and then the drone video. And it's helping me get people in the door to even ask questions about
Yeah.
their benefits with the VA loan. And I don't care doing that. Like that, to me, I'm not above it. If you're not going to use me for a loan, you just want to find out how to apply for one or how it works,
Yeah.
I'm willing to help you, because when I used it, I was confused as shit. And the credit union that we originally were going to go with told us the wrong things. So it was like, I don't want to be, and we were panicked and spiraling out of control because we were buying a house remotely. And I was like, I don't want to be that. I didn't like that. So certainly I don't want these other people to go through that again. But yeah, so I just found a distraction, and that distraction was making social media again, getting the wheels turning on that. So the resiliency is just like, for me, an adjacent goal or side quest that will help you. Because if you think about something too much, it's like, regret, or how do I get over this, or how do I fix this problem? It's not
Like,
necessarily going to be conducive at the moment.
yeah, like it's you get into like analysis paralysis. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
call it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hell yeah, dude. I'm so proud of you. That's fucking awesome. And no, I completely agree. Even for me, this podcast started off as like a hobby. It was just like a fun way for me to take control and have my own platform and like just personally be who I am
Mm-hmm.
and not have to pretend or have to exploit myself or whatever from like previous platforms and stuff. And still to this day, it's so corny, like promoting that, hey guys, like, share,
Yeah.
follow. I'm just like, ugh. I'm just like, listen if you want, I don't care, whatever. But I've had to kick it up a notch because I've seen it more so lately. Of obviously podcasts are still popping. If anything, we should ban men from buying podcast microphones, in my opinion. I think I can say that because I've had skin in the game for a couple years, but people need to hear these stories. I hate seeing the fake bullshit online, and I come across some awesome people, and I want to be able to highlight that because there's enough of that grifter, scammer, whatever the fuck you want to call those people. And I'm like, no, I meet some really awesome people that might not have the same giant platform, but they deserve their
Mm-hmm.
roses. People need to hear their stories. I need to hear these stories because some days I'm just, I don't know, in a funk, and I'm just like, how do these people get up every day and keep going? Because sometimes shit just weighs so heavy on me, and then I look online and I'm like, oh wow, these people just really have it all together or whatever. And in reality, I know better than that. So this is my way of having a conversation just between you and I, but also being able to show others that resiliency, that inspiration of however the journey looks like. There's lessons
Mm-hmm.
that come from it. There's strength that comes from it. And it doesn't have to be this whole badass, like David Goggins carrying boats and shit and like getting punched in the stomach, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Resiliency can look different in a multitude of ways, but then promoting it, I'm like, I get all feel good and the good chemicals from having these talks, and then promoting it, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
What, little old me? But then no. But it's good to see that you're just helping people, other veterans, like know the truth, the real situation with their benefits, showing up as best as you can, not taking people's shit. And yeah, it's been really cool. I'm personally not a runner, but I do appreciate your content. I love seeing you improve. I love seeing like your analysis, like your ability to critique and pivot. And also, we're in a certain space where there's a lot of influencers, and it's just,
Mm-hmm.
they're just shilling crap. But again, whatever. I'll look
No,
at
I
your
get you.
content and I'm just like, I by no means am a long distance runner, but I appreciate how you break down, oh yeah, these hokas versus these. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning stuff, and it just comes from a good place. Keep doing what you're doing. I fucking love it. I'm always going to be rooting for you, and I appreciate you coming on. So if you have any final notes or if you want anything else that you want to yap about, I'm here. But those were like just the questions that I wanted to ask you.
Thank you for having me. And you don't open the floor for me to continue to yap, because I'll continue to yap. I can just talk forever. Not necessarily wanting to talk about myself. And for anyone that listens to this, I'm sorry they had to listen to me gas myself up. because I'm just so freaking awesome.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, you're looking at two people that don't like self-promoting because we're not grifters and we never will be. So 2025, I think we should leave all those people in the dust along with the conspiracy theorists, because I'm tired of fear mongering, and I'm going to continue to make jokes just because everything is so negative, and that's what gets clicks. That's what gets engagement now, is the fear of the unknown and hopefully an answer for things you can't explain. So instead of giving you a boogeyman, I'll be the boogeyman, brother. But yeah, so thanks for having me on. I don't have any questions just
Okay.
because I don't want to keep you here forever. But yeah,
No, you're good.
I'm always here for anyone who wants to complain, wants to talk about their accomplishments or anything. I'm always open. I always answer my DMs because I don't consider myself an influencer. I'm just some goober online that makes jokes, and people decide that they're interested in that. But yeah, I'm just some guy pretending to be dressed up as another guy pretending to be some guy. I don't know. But yeah, so it's just, thank you for giving a platform, especially to women and in the space of the military realm, because it's far and few between, and we're expected to be pretty cute baby talking in a bikini, and that's not all of us, and we're very real. We can do the job and we exist in the space, and hopefully that continues to go forward and more women are feeling confident and joining and less scared and worried about how they're going to be viewed in this position.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Nora, you got some fun stuff coming up in May, your marathon, and hopefully some cool news after that. So do you have anything else that you're excited about this year?
I have no idea. I want to say there's things I'm excited about, but I also don't want to jinx.
Okay,
Those
fair.
things.
That's fair. We will be rooting for you and we will be following the journey. Where can people find you at?
I am more active on Instagram than anything else, and that is Fubar, FUBAR _actual on Instagram, and then either infidel _ Nora, aka say the same thing, Fubar actual. You can search both of those username tags on TikTok. Again, we're pending the ban on TikTok, potentially, who's to say. So I've moved to Instagram more often than TikTok when I do engage on platforms.
Hell yeah. All right, y'all. Follow Nora, check out the journey, and root for her in her running endeavors. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.